Alright, hello. A bit of a different video today. So, Devstream just ended. I just wanted to, I took a look at some of the stuff. I was kind of disappointed about the Tenet and the Kuva weapons because I fully expected the Kuva weapon to be so big and I knew I was gonna hate it. I wish they just made a brand new Kuva weapon and kept it interesting, but unfortunately that's not the case. And the Tenet weapon was a Glaxion, so that is also very disappointing. However, we got this. Enemy resistances and status rework. So if you don't know, in the next mainline update, the statuses and the enemy scaling is gonna get reworked. There is some really good stuff here and some really bad stuff here. And since this update is something that, in my opinion, will potentially make the game 10 times better and 10 times more variety based, this can change things for like the better. This change the game, bring back people who didn't play the game because the game lost variety and all that sorts of stuff. This could spice up the meta so much. Now let's get to the actual post and I'm gonna skip the useless stuff. This is just what we have in the game currently. They're adding some icons so you can see what faction damage is better on the start shot. So if you want to fight Corpus, for example, you get plus impact and plus magnetic as a recommendation to know what you should pick if you're a new player. And this is now the, well, resistance variants. It doesn't really matter. Let's say Grenier on Earth are weak to corrosive heat. Then its chosen status will continue to work independently as expected. Status juggling between 13 unseen health defensive types has been reduced. So basically we had 13 different type of defenses. These, right? So instead of 13 as they are right now, they're reducing it to 3. Just health, armor, and shield. They will all scale the same way, they will all have the same effect on the resistances and their respective damages, and they will all function the same. Which, okay, pretty cool, but it will help a lot of elements gain traction because this will mean some other elements can get really, really nerfed because of this. Viral, and some other element can get really, really buffed because of this. Radiation, blast. So I'm not talking about the effects in general of those elements because even if you nerf viral to not do great damage against anything, you will still use viral because it gives you plus damage to health. The passive is OP and that's not going to change. That's good. Now here is the part where I don't like. So actually no, before we go to that part, they're going to make partial armor strip more impactful and total armor strip more necessary. So this is a Uniru nerf kind of for level cap runs, but it is honestly just fine. You still have so many tools to armor strip right now that it's just fine. There's gonna be a minimum amount of armor that an enemy can have before they cannot drop to 0 armor. They have a minimum amount of armor essentially. So that is really good. The corpus shields are also going to regenerate pretty fast. In case you run out of ammo or something, they regenerate like hell, so you have a harder time killing them. And now, enemy HP scaling. Enemies starting from levels closer to 100 will see faster rates in which they gain stats, health, shields, etc. This is really good. I am planning to get the disruption video out this weekend, and you're going to see that the enemies in that mission at level cap take around a minute to kill. That's how it should be for the demolishers for the actual game instead of just a new disruption mission. If you play a Grenier disruption, no matter what, a Grenier demolisher at level cap should take you at least a minute to kill. Why? Because it's level cap. It's the highest level you can reach. It has to be a tiny bit difficult. Like if it's not, then what is the point? You understand? This is great. And I hope this is like more impactful than what they're saying, and they will not be scared to actually increase the HP massively, because right now level cap is a joke. You can level cap with any weapon. There was some squad. I'm not really sure about this because Gamble told me about this, but there used to be a squad that would do YouTube videos where they tried to do level cap with the worst weapon with with the least amount of mods possible. And at some point, they managed to do level cap without mods at all on their weapons. 0 mods. 0. So that's how much of a joke level cap is right now. And, if you ask right now, is a weapon level cap viable? The answer is automatically yes, because every weapon is level cap viable. Every single one. So hopefully this will fix it. Now to the actual things that, are impactful. So, blast. The blast is blasting more to come. Wait, did they change this? Hold up. Wait. Blast was something else. It said this. What? They changed it. They just said blast is blasting more to come. Well, it used to say this. Our goal with blast was to invoke an immediate on-death effect to emphasize explosions. Now instead of enemy inaccuracy, you detonate your enemies, dealing a blast status effect to an enemy. The following will happen. When a status is applied, deal a percentage of damage after a certain time frame. Each blast has its own timer and goes after a second. So you hit an enemy with a blast proc that deals damage, then you deal the same amount of damage again, and if the enemy dies during that timer, then they explode, dealing that blast damage to everyone. And more status of blast, the more that does it. So that's pretty cool. If it doesn't actually ragdoll the enemy as well and just explodes them without you kind of seeing them, this will be even better. And obviously the radius will grow depending on stacks. So in my opinion, these are good changes to blast, but they are indirect buffs to AoE weapons. And AoE weapons right now are already way too strong. So in my opinion, this isn't that great. But if we're gonna make the enemies vastly tankier, then it's gonna be great because AoE weapons will be nerfed this way. So I guess this is why they changed this line. It doesn't really matter. Cold has the 10th proc finally. If you haven't played with Cold much, it can only reach 9 procs and it's 10% slow per proc, so 90% damage reduction total. Now it can go to 100% and it will freeze the enemy. It will cause them to not regenerate shields anymore, so really good for new corpus. And you will have synergies with status effects such as bleed maybe, and also gonna get more critical damage. So yeah, pretty good. Now here are the stuff that I am very sad about. So first of all, as you see, we only have 4 status effects mentioned. This is bad. When we're saying about a status rework, we need an actual rework, like a full-on rework. Like slash needs to change, viral needs to change, corrosive needs to change. Everything needs to change if we're gonna have a rework. If this rework happens and all of these elements gonna get better, then radiation damage is gonna be useless, except it is very, very good against the Grenier. If it's really good against the Grenier in general, then that's gonna make it good. But if not, then radiation is gonna be at the bottom of the barrel and untouched forever. So, in my opinion, they need to get a bit more creative with it, because look at this. For example, gas, they say it often lacks effective readability, and it's difficult to extinguish its presence from the enemy or yourself. So what they are having as a idea right now is to change the visual effects of gas, not the actual element itself. Gas being at 10 stacks cap and replacing itself with a worse gas proc is a big problem. And I'm not sure how D doesn't see this. Gas procs need a rework. They need to have a bigger cap, or they need to have something different that makes it more unique. Like, heat damage exists in this game, where it's basically there is no cap. You can refresh it so you can get infinite stacks. There is no way we can leave heat damage the same as gas damage in this meta, because heat damage is just way too OP. Hit inherit is a thing in this game. Hit stacks do not go down whatsoever, and it's just disgusting. I mean, if we made gas damage like electricity damage, and then we buffed the electricity status effect, by increasing its range or something, then that would be good. But as of right now, this does nothing. They're saying that they're gonna change it visually. Gus doesn't have a visual issue. Gus has a damage issue. It doesn't deal damage. You will only pick it against Infested. And you can pick anything against Infested right now. They're not tanky enough, except when you go to level cap. Quite literally, there is no tankiness except you go to level cap. And then if you have hit weapons on level cap, then they can die pretty easily. So please do something about gas and add more elements here, because we can actually have something really good happening here. There is quite a bit more time for this update. There is probably months for this update, and it's it's gonna be good. It could be something beautiful. It could change the game, and it could change the meta forever, and it could help you have variety of builds and different build for every weapon, making the game have a bit more thoughts. You're gonna get a bit more thought process when you're building around your gun, and if you're good at building your gun, you can make it stronger. And then some new meta will arrive, obviously, but then people will realize that this is also good and this is also good. That's what we need. This doesn't provide that. Gas will not be picked by anyone if we just change it visually, because Gas's issue isn't that it's visually unclear, is that it's not good. Unfortunately, we need to make it better. The only way that you can abuse gas right now is if you play Garuda and you turn every gas proc into a slash proc. If you do that, then yeah, gas is OP. But now it's useless. By far. The worst element in the game currently. And magnetic, so what I'm saying for magnetic here is good changes. So maximum damage against nullifier bubbles and minimum damage, and there is a lot of stuff that is helping with magnetic, where the regeneration rate is delayed, and generally it will be very good for high level corpus. But there is an issue, and the issue is that toxin damage is in the game. When there is a damage type in the game that completely ignores shields on its own, then why would you care about shooting at shields? Since corpus, if their health goes to 0, their shields disappear, so you can just ignore them. So, why would I not build Toxin? Especially since Toxin, even if I hit the enemy but I don't status proc them, they still get damage to their health directly. They don't get damage to their shield and the proc deals damage to their health, they just get health damage all the time. If we increase corpus shields, and we increase magnetic's effectiveness against shields, we have done nothing, because corpus are weak to toxin, not magnetic. It's ridiculous. Like, you see what I mean? This does nothing. These are good changes, and if blast happens to be this will be good, especially if enemy health gets buffed. But this needs to be like a powerful effect. The damage needs to be there. It needs to scale with actual elemental modes and bane modes and all that, and with abilities. And if that does, then blast could be sick. But heat exists, gas is gonna be useless. Toxin exists, magnetic is gonna be useless. They're changing the damage type, so I'm very scared for radiation damage. And we might be going into a meta where everything is good if you just build it for viral and corrosive, which is what you already do. It's literally nothing changes. I just want things to change. We have been in a viral / corrosive meta ever since I started playing the game. I started playing this game in 2016, and since then corrosive was meta. Then viral and / were meta. Then counter munitions came in on 2017 with the Plains of Idol update. And just ever since then, we're in this stale, same type of modding, where you take your gun, you add prime cryo rounds, you add your toxin mode, whether that be infected clip or the malignant force, then you add galvanized modes, 2 of them, usually aptitude and chamber, and then you add crit. And that's your build. And bane mode, that's it. Built. For everything. for everything. All that you need to do from now on is change the Bane mode. Make it Grenier, Corpus, Infested, or Murmur, and you are good to go. That is the build for every single primary weapon in the entire game, and there is almost no difference. There is almost literally zero difference. I really hope D actually takes their time and thinks about changing status effects and make drastic changes to status effects, because this is ridiculous. This doesn't do anything. This changes. Cold could be neat for people that can use cold damage, but heat damage is better, and you cannot do cold and heat at the same time. And why heat damage is better? Because heat is infinite scaling, and heat inherit exists in this game. These do nothing, unfortunately. The health changes, the changes to the enemy scaling and everything like that, they are really good. Like, this is what we need. But we also need this to be efficient. This needs to do something. Right now, the way that D has stated it here, these changes, except for blasts, they basically do nothing. Cold is already good. Cold is very underrated. If you play a disruption mission and you use cold damage, you immediately realize that the crit damage you get from cold is insane. Does this mean we're gonna build our guns for cold? No, because we have heat, and heat is better. If heat doesn't get nerfed, we cannot build cold. And if gas doesn't get buffed, we cannot build it either, because heat exists. This is the same for electricity. There is some little amount of instances where you will go ahead and build electricity. You need to have a primary shotgun that has high multi-shot, its beam, and then yada yada yada, and you need to have some kind of armor strip. Which, if you're building corrosive, it can be on your gun. Or, sorry, if you're building electricity, it can't be on your gun, because electricity and toxin make corrosive. So if you have electricity, you can't have corrosive at the same time, except if the gun has innate corrosive, or if you have a siren. Either way, it doesn't make any sense. No, actually, no. Even if you have a siren, you lose the electricity damage if you have it. It just turns into corrosive instantly. It needs to change. It's as simple as that. Every single damage type, except maybe puncture, needs to change. And I don't know, impacts, I don't know what I can make about it. Impact is fine as it is, in my opinion. It is useful if you play around it, but there is no use to cold. My bad. There is no use to gas. There is no use to electricity. There is no use to magnetic right now. There is no use to blast right now. There is no use to anything else than corrosive, viral, heat, and slash. You can go this for everything. And if you go against Corpus, even against the new Corpus, you can just go pure toxin, and your weapon will vastly outdamage the magnetic toxin. Like, you can go magnetic toxin, but what will do more damage? Magnetic toxin or just pure toxin that goes directly through health and ignores the shield? It's gonna be pure toxin. It's just how it is, unfortunately. Except we actually make drastic changes and change how these things work. For example, you could change how toxin can damage like health directly right now without having a proc. Why don't you make it that toxin doesn't attack health directly right now, but the proc is way more powerful and does attack health directly, so that you can actually go for magnetic and toxin against Corpus, and that makes sense. You understand? Like, these type of changes need to happen. You don't even need to make big changes for the game to change how it works. Some small changes will be enough on what we have existing on the status effects that we have. But they need to change, because if they don't, then the meta will become stale. It will stay as it is. Nothing will change. So please, D, you have time. Go to the drawing book. Start thinking about what you're gonna do with every element. We need this. We really, really need this.